We'll come to how you find yourself standing for local elections in a moment, but I suppose let's start at the beginning of your story, if you like. What was it like growing up? This is in North Korea. For lots of our listeners, they'd have no idea. So what's childhood like in North Korea?
I have still the vivid memories when I was a child. With my friend played war games. So we usually one team is North Korean soldiers and another team is Americans. But always North Korean soldiers win, you know. So we fighted these war games every day in the evening, and the school is the same because we didn't know too much about the America and also outside the countries, but we always hated these countries and also South Korean people. So that is my child memories. First, I learned that about the hate.
Hating those other countries. And what do you know when you're in North Korea about America or about Britain? Do you know anything at all?
I knew that is America, but I never watched the America films or never read about the America books, and I didn't know that is America histories. Just only government teach to us. America is enemy our countries and many bigger people, hunger people in outside country. So we believed that, and in Britain, but we never heard that is Britain. We only knew that's England.
Okay, that was how
Yes.
that's sort of how you knew it. And in terms of sort of everyday things, you mentioned not really having toys as a child, but what about food? What's on the TV? You know, going to school. What was that life experience like?
In North Korea is one of the distributions country and government gave to us rice. So every person is a different amount. You know, housewife is 300 grams a day, and the student is 400 grams. University student is 600 grams, and the workers between 700 or 800 grams a day. So government gave to us rice twice a month, and everyone we have got the rice numbers. So my house is every month 4 and 19 is my collections days. So mother went to this office and the collections days. So we never knew that is what mean is a full amount because we always hunger. You know, we always hunger, and mom is always divided our food. You know, when he bring the food and divided 15 days and also divided 3 meals, so they were enough. Oh, and in school is the same. In family, in household and all is the public places. We have only two pictures, Kim Il Sung and Kim Jong Il pictures in school, public places, in our home. So we every day thank you to them, and we call it Kim Il Sung is father, and the work party is our mother. So we don't believe too much, and we don't love to my biology father and mother. You know, that is and the school is learn always is Kim Il Sung and Kim Jong Il's history. That is fake history, but we learned that. So we thought that socialism is a great country in our world and nothing to envy.
It's amazing to hear that from your sort of first-hand experience. We can only hear it because you managed to leave North Korea, as I mentioned in the introduction, not once but twice. Talk us through what happened when you decided to try and leave.
It's early 1990s, government stopped our distributions. So government told to us it is America problems because they sanctions. So that's why government didn't buy any food. So we believed that, but there is many years they didn't give to us any rice. So people started starving. So early 1996, my uncle died of starvations in front of me. And then I saw many dead bodies in the street, and we every day heard that neighbors died and some students died, my friends died. That's really horrible time to us. And then my younger brother also really dangerous way because he was joined the military. So military was the same as is the people. So my father last wish was to save my younger brother. So that's why I left North Korea and abandoned my illness father alone in cold dining room. So I still don't know when my father passed away and where he's buried. So
That must have
that
been
is,
an extraordinary thing to have decided to do, to leave your father. And I know he was sort of encouraging you to do that, hoping that you could find some sort of better life. So you leave behind your father with your brother. What happened? What describe the moment you tried to get out of North Korea?
so when I left my father, I left only one bowl rice and cleaning clothes next to him. Because if someone find about my father and gave it to him last year and changed the clothes. But I didn't say goodbye to my father because I talked about it maybe one day we rewrite it again. So I left because I wanted to save my younger brother. That is my father last wish. So we crossed the Tumon River. It's midnight 2 a.m. And that time it was the winter. It was the February, so winter, and the river is already frozen. So me and the younger brother crossed the border. So we already crossed the halfway, and then we heard that is North Korean soldiers shouted to us, "Stop, stop!" And then they gunfire to us. But we continued to cross the border and arrived in China. So I thought that is maybe China is a green places and bring it to us a new life, but that is totally different.
I mean, that's extraordinary. So it's midnight, it's freezing, and you've got North Korean soldiers firing weapons at you, but you both managed to cross over into China.
Yes, we did.
And so,
Yeah.
so having managed to do that, like you said, your hopes that China was going to be the green place that you could go and settle in. But I mean, you just had such an awful time in China as well. Explain us, if you can, what happened once you got to China.
But once in China, I was human trafficking. It's not only me, it's all North Korean females. Because it's in China, many smugglers, they waited to North Korean females and then they sold to us. So same as me, I was sold to Chinese man and then separated my younger brother because this man is not accept my younger brother. He said that he poked only me. So after I separated my younger brother, and he also repatriated to North Korea, so I still don't know that he's died or alive.
And what was that like, having gone to this extraordinary experience of making the decision to leave behind your father, cross the border into China, hoping for a better life, and ending up in being bought and sold by a trafficker and bought by this man who wouldn't accept your brother?
Yeah, we lost every hope, in China, and my life was slavery life because the Chinese family never accepted to us their family members. So I was only just workers or just only sex players in these areas. So in this town is five North Korean females, but we never spoke each other because the family members always look after to us. So one day I wanted to give up my life because I lost my father and then my younger brother too. So my life was really slavery. But after I find out that I was pregnant, and then I changed mind because this child is my hope and my family members. So I kept this child. But the Chinese government told me that you abandoned this child, abortions this child, because the government never accepted this child. But I denied it. And I kept. And after my child born in China, so I really happy that moment because I have a family.
You've got a family and it's yours, and yeah. But then what happened? Describe how things unfortunately sadly got worse again.
Yeah. Then even my son 3 months after is a Chinese man came to me and he told me that he wanted to sold my son because he borrowed a lot of money and lost money gamblings. So I first time stood up and fight these evils. I shouted to man, if you touched my son, I kill you. And then, that every day I work with my son, work in outside. But 5 years after, I also repatriated to North Korea and separated my son. He's alone in China, and then I sent back to North Korea. So we separated both.
So you were separated and you were sent back to North Korea, not knowing where your son was. What happened? What happened then? How did you manage to get out of North Korea for the second time?
Yeah, once I went repatriated to North Korea, I thought that North Korea was my home places, So maybe government welcomed to us because we left North Korea. The reason is that we wanted to survive. But once in North Korea, they never accepted to us human. So that's why they tortured, imprisoned, or executions to us. And we worked in prison, look like animals. That we never wash up, and we used the toilet, female and man together, and no water arrived in our presence. So one day, I was illness, and my leg was problems and swollen, and I didn't walk, and my temperature is 40 degrees. So I almost dead. So
Yeah,
then,
so you got this as a sort of infection, wasn't it, in
yes,
prison?
yes, because
And
we always walk in outside without the shoes.
Oh, wow. And so you got this, but you were sort of really seriously ill, very high temperature, couldn't walk. And so they just threw you out.
Yes, because they say that you cannot die in prison, died in outside anyway. So that's why they released me. So I was lucky, that is lucky. I say that is lucky. Yeah. So then after I met the brokers again and myself human trafficking to China because I had no money and my condition is still the bad. But my son is with me in China, United is really important source for me. So that is my strength, So myself human trafficking with China again, but then we escaped North Korea again.
So how do you do that? So you've been thrown out of prison basically to die because your infection is so bad you can barely walk. How do you then get not only well again, but also to then get out of North Korea again? What happened this time?
When I lived in North Korea, when I lived in prison, I thought about only my son. I never think about anything, food or something else. I only thought about my son because I wanted to unite it. I never lost my family again. So that is I survived. And also the second time is the same, is united my son. And have to survive. And I want to tell these stories to outside people because many people don't know about the inside North Korea.
Yeah, no, and I think that's why it's so fascinating to be able to hear your story direct from you. So you managed to get back to China, and you did manage. The good news from this is you did manage to find your son.
Yes, yeah. I find it myself, but it's, that I promised the broker myself human trafficking. So once in China, I told to him I want to call my son once, but first he denied it because he said that you already promised to me human trafficking in here. But I once in China, when we got to the taxi, I helped all people because in China, usually many people they find out the North Koreans because if they contacted police and North Koreans and the government paid money to them. So nowadays many Chinese people they find out the North Koreans. This money is better than their salaries. So I helped them is on the taxi, and then after he said that you had to call your son. So when I called my son, and he first twice he denied it, he opened. And the third times I said that his son is mom. And then my son is only one word, mom. And he cried. So everyone is hurt and everyone is cried. So after he said that is yesterday you saved my life, so today I saved your life. you have to go and united your son. So I really thankful to him, and then I met my son in 2005.
You got your son back in 2005,
Yeah.
and met your now husband too.
Yes, yeah. I met my husband is in Mongolia border. So because it's me and my son wanted to leave China because China is not a safe country. And if I repatriated to North Korea, I could be died, and then I never responsible to care about my son. So I wanted to leave this country and wanted to go South Korea, but our journey is all failed. That is really dangerous. So in Beijing, we met now 9 North Korean refugees. So all people is the same. They wanted to go free countries. So we crossed the Mongolia border, Chinese border to Mongolia, because Mongolia also one another South Korea embassy in there. So we crossed the border China, and the Chinese border is really strong fences, 2-meter fences, and then Chinese policies around the up and down. They looked up, someone is across the border. So all people ran out, but me and my son is continued to walk. Then I found out that is a Chinese police car. That's right, it came to us. So that time is one man came to us and he backed my son and holding my hand, and we ran and crossed the second border and then arrived at Mongolia. So this man is saved me and my son, and then I very love to him.
Of course,
Yeah,
I bet you
yes,
did.
yes.
Of
So
course.
yeah. So it's the first time. I am female. It's the first time I knew that what means love. I tasted that time.
And anyone listening to your story could have, after everything you went through, to find someone who comes along and holds your hand and helps you and your son is yeah, I can see how he became your husband. Before we talk in a moment to how you ended up then in the UK and doing what you're doing now, lots of people when they think about North Korea and Kim Jong Un, he's a bit of a figure of fun, President Trump calling him little rocket man and all that sort of stuff, and it's all a bit of a joke. But the story that you tell tells us that life in North Korea really isn't a joke, is it?
Yeah, that's really the strange because when I came to the UK, many people don't know where is North Korea. Some people talked about that is a part of South Korea, some of the town or province. They never knew that. But after 2013, when Sony Picture published the movie, the interview, and after Trump and Kim Jong Un met, and they usually Twitter is rocket man, love letter. Yeah, missiles. Then after many people knew that is North Korea, but still they don't know there is people life because all totally invisible. Because media is always published about the politics and only nuclear weapons. They always forget our people.
Okay, so let's talk about then how you've ended up in the UK and now standing for election. I mean, the most ultimate sort of rebuttal to life in North Korea is to leave North Korea and then run for election and an open and fair democracy. How did you end up in Bury?
Oh, the people usually talk about that is hell and heaven, but these two words come from only Bibles, and they don't know these meanings. But that I left hell and now live in heaven. So this country give me always is brief hours and gratitude to everyday life. So I still never forget about this moment because when I got a visa from Home Office, and the Home Office told me that your family is safe this country. So that is really bruised tears. And first, I've tested my political freedoms in here. So I know it's a stand up for these elections because the first reasons that is British people accept to refugees and immigrants in here and welcome to the here, and they gave to us many opportunities and challenges, and they always helped me. So I wanted to help to these societies. So that's why I stand up. And the second reason that is Britain teaching to us what is a democracy and what is human. And also they teaching to me democracy needs the participation, the politics. So if we don't know the politics, we never step up in our freedom's life. And the third one, there's many people shocked me because I was human rights activities, but I bought conservatives. So many human rights activities and the reporters, they shocked me because they told me that conservatives, discriminations, refugees and immigrants, but why you choose conservatives? So when I heard that, that is really shocked because racism comes from socialism and communism ideologies because they divided our individuals. There is people never discrimination to us. It's all UK people welcomed to us. So that is really important. So I want to teach it to them. Is that we people never discriminations another people, and I want to tell the refugees, think about that. Who are you and why you left your hometown? So that's why I stand up.
That's why you're standing for election. And like I said, you're standing as a Conservative in Bury. What's how is it when you're sort of out and about and you're listening to people's problems? Because there must be a point if you are leafleting or being able to speak to people, obviously from a safe distance and all that sort of thing. People start talking about their problems, for the local council in Bury. They pale into insignificance compared to everything that you've been through. So how do you sort of, whether it's not the bins being collected or the potholes or the schools, whatever it might be, how do you relate to those issues when people are raising them?
That I lived in here 13 years. So I knew that is my neighbors. I always around here. So I knew that is many people problems, and I usually talked about my husband. Oh, why does the many rubbish is outside? Because it's children played outside. So that is really dirty. And some people talked about the environment, but they never talked about the recycling because that is all together. And always they divided environmental recyclings and there is find jobs. They always divided, but that is all including the one thing. And the listening is really important because local people always shouted to us, but many local councillors, they never listened to our voices. So myself, victims and eyewitness, also human rights activities, and I heard many voices carefully because that is really important. So my big issue is good listener, and community with people.
Good listener. They definitely need that in politics. And what about, is this just the start? You're running to be a councillor. Have you got greater political ambitions? Do you want to be Prime Minister one day?
Oh no, I never thought about that is the prime minister or something. Yeah, because it's a local election. That is not politicians. That is community leaders, and I wanted to know that this society because I am now British citizens. So if we don't know that is a community, I never bring the happiness and the freedom life in here. So that's why I joined. So I never thought about that as MPs or prime minister.
You don't fancy doing that.
Yeah.
And if you've spoken to Boris Johnson, does he know about your story?
Oh, not yet, but I think that he already heard. Yeah, so yeah, he also proud me, and the many refugees and immigrants already heard my stories. So,
which is why we wanted to tell it on the program as well. And if Boris Johnson, if you do get to speak to Boris Johnson one day, and he asks what should Britain be doing in relation to North Korea, what would you like to see happen? Is there anything that a country like Britain can do to try and improve lives for all those people that you left behind?
Yeah, it's a diplomatic is also important in many countries, but North Korea is most important is human rights issues because many 75 years is North Korean people's invisible in our world. So if our government, I know that is our government is still the work, really hard work to North Korea. So I wanted to say that is my prime minister, think people first because they are all same as human and they all is the same as me. They all find the happiness, freedom in here. And my country people dream is not too big. Their dream is one day they family united and have a dinner one table.